Are you a beginner violinist who is struggling to tune their violin? Hi, my name is Eric. I am also a violinist. Thanks for stopping by my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to teach you how to tune the violin with the pegs. So stick around, you don't want to miss this. If you're here for the first time, please subscribe and hit those bell notifications. It helps me a lot to provide more content and resources for you. Today we're going to talk about tuning the violin. Tuning the violin is a crucial thing to know how to do when you're first starting off with the violin. And today's video we're going to be focusing on tuning with the pegs, because a lot of musicians tune with the screws, which is right over here. However, you may notice on my violin I only have one screw. This is actually pretty common amongst full-size violinists. The reason for that is that you actually open up a bit more sound when you have less screws to work with on the tailpiece. So you'll get a better sound, louder sound, and sometimes even brighter sound when you don't have as many screws on the tailpiece. A lot of the times the screws are made of metal, so actually metal stops the vibrations that are happening through the wooden tailpiece, which is why the sound gets bigger and it sounds louder, more vibrant. As you can see on my violin has a screw on the E string. This is pretty common because the E string is actually not so hard to tune and it's really easy to do it with the screw. You really don't need a peg for that. However, the A, D, and G string on the violin is pretty common to tune with the pegs. So we'll go step by step. If you're a beginner watching this video, I encourage you to really follow step by step on what I'm about to show you and what I'm about to explain to you to make it easier for you. First off, you want your violin right in front of you. You don't want it away from you, you want it right in front of you. I like to hold my left hand on the violin with the for what will be for you the left shoulder, and you're gonna hold your violin on the left shoulder as so. You're gonna take your right hand, and then a peg is actually a wedge in many ways. So if you turn the violin peg like regularly, it's actually not going to stay in tune. Why? Because there's a little bit of a wedge from the peg going into the peg box, and you actually have to turn it into the peg box in order for it to really stay in tune, and to stay in any kind of pitch for that matter. So we're gonna go ahead and we're actually gonna pit our string. We're gonna pluck our string just a little bit, and I don't recommend this method for all violinists. This section of the tutorial is mostly for parents who are tuning their students' violins or their child's violin, and they just need a quick and easy solution. Because usually when you pluck the string, you actually stretch the string out a little more and you don't get the pitch as good as you want it to be. Later on in this video, I'm going to show you how to tune the pegs with a bow. So I'm going to pluck my A string, and typically we want to aim between 440 Hertz to 442 Hertz. That's pretty much the range, depending on what region you're in. A lot of violinists tune their violins to 440, and many orchestras actually tune to 442. I know in Massachusetts and in the Boston Symphony, they actually tune to 441, which is really not that common, but there you have it. So for our sake, we're gonna tune to 440, and we'll see if you can follow along with this peg. So after you determined on what pitch you want to tune to, 440, 441, or 442, make sure you have a tuning app right beside you to really help you gauge what's too high and what's too low. And usually having a needle will really help you get the exact intonation, exact pitch. All right, here we go. So our A is obviously too low. So what I do is I usually hold my violin here and I use my thumb to pluck the string, and as I pluck the string, I use my right hand, and for me, I'm gonna be turning it clockwise, and you hear that the pitch kind of goes up a little bit. That's totally fine, and I usually pluck the string and then tune, so pluck, then turn, so that way I know if I'm going up or down. If I pluck it, turn it, then there's no telling whether or not I've gone high or too low. So I like to turn the peg after the note has been plucked, or after the string has been plucked, and that time I hit an E, and there we go, we have an A string. And you would use the same method for the D and the G string if you want a quick fix. If you're a parent or if you're a teacher and you want a quick fix, this is the way to do it. So let's go to the D string, shall we? So the D string is obviously out of tune, almost heading towards a G. But same idea, but we're actually gonna reverse the roles. Our right hand is gonna sit on the right part of the violin, on the right shoulder, and it's gonna pluck our D string. And then our left hand is actually gonna turn counterclockwise. So to make it easier for you, you're actually, to tighten the string to make the pitch go higher, you're gonna turn the peg away from you. And if you wanna make it go lower, you turn it towards you. So here we go. So we have D string. And you may have noticed that the pitch went up as I turned the peg. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, you want to make sure that you are turning in as you're turning the peg away from you. Of course, not too much. You want to be really delicate, because I've heard some horror stories that pegs actually chop off and we don't want that happening in your case. So do this with the grain of caution, and I think you'll be all set. And then lastly, let's just fix the G string, make sure it's good for us. So again, we're gonna pluck the string with our right thumb, we're gonna hold it, and we're gonna turn the peg away from us. So, and that time it was actually a little too high, so let me fix it. Good. And we have all 4 strings tuned. The E string, you could easily adjust it with the fine tuner to make it go higher, make the pitch go higher. You turn it clockwise, and if you wanna put the pitch down, you do it counterclockwise. So for those of you who want something a little bit more advanced on how to tune your violin, we're gonna use our bow this time. And there's a special kind of finessing that we have to really do in order to kind of tune with our left hand with the right peg. So if that means that we're gonna, that in this case my A is actually a little low, and I'm gonna put the pitch down. And what I'm doing is I'm putting my 2 middle fingers on top of the peg on the side, on the opposite side, right, like this. And while I'm turning it, I'm using this as like a way for me to push the peg in. Of course, you need to be cautious and you can't overdo it, all right? So we'll try that one more time. And if you can see my left hand, that's one way to tune your A string with the peg with your bow. And then you would go step by step from the D and also to the G string. Now I forgot to mention this one little bonus tip. And what that is you should always be tuning the note from the bottom to the pitch that you desire. You don't want to go from the top pitch to the desired pitch, which is if it's lower, because you're gonna stretch the string otherwise, and your pegs are gonna be all messed up, and your strings are actually not gonna be sounding as good if you continue doing this for a longer period of time. And also, when you're tuning with your bow, you also want to be tuning both strings at the same time. So once you've established your A on either 440, 441, or 442 Hertz, then you tune strings the way that you would normally tune. So after we tune the A, we're gonna go ahead and tune the E alongside the A to match. And then we're gonna tune a A to D. And then D to G. My E's actually not that in tune yet, so. And depending on the strings and depending on the violin, sometimes if you tune your D string and you double check your other strings, they may go out of tune, and that's okay, because sometimes the tension is a little different according to each string, so you just want to double check on all of those strings. And you may have noticed that I was using long bows to really make sure I get like a clear, concise sound so I can hear the intervals, the sound waves between the two notes. and each string on a violin is tuned to a perfect fifth. And E to A to D, D to G, they're all parallel fifths. So we have to make sure that all the fifths are in tune with one another. Now, occasionally, and I'm not saying this all the time, but occasionally, violinists like to tune their E string a little higher, maybe a couple cents higher than what would be considered a perfect interval between the A and the E. I think it's also when soloists are trying to project in front of an orchestra, out of an orchestra to an audience, that their pitch is slightly altered a little bit for you to be able to, for the violinist to be heard. So there you have it. That is my tutorial on how to tune your violin with the pegs. If you like this video, please like and share. Also make sure to subscribe and leave those bell notifications, and we'll see you in the next video.